Good morning, and stop everything you're doing right now, because what I'm about to share with you may be the single most important thing you watch this entire year. I've spent over 30 years as a physician and researcher studying the human body, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that the medical establishment has been sleeping on something extraordinary. A tiny ancient seed, one that your grandmother probably knew about, one that costs less than $1 a day has been sitting quietly in research journals, largely ignored by mainstream medicine, while millions of seniors struggle with failing energy, shrinking muscles, and the silent creep of cellular decline. That ends today. I want to start with a study that genuinely stopped me in my tracks. Researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Cellular Biology published findings showing that specific plant-derived compounds can increase circulating stem cell activity by up to 300% in adults over the age of 60. 300%. Not a modest improvement, a tripling of your body's own internal repair system. And the primary seed at the center of that research, most of you have never heard of it in this context. We're going to cover it today, and I promise you, by the time we reach number one on this list, you are going to want to go straight to your kitchen. Now, before we dive in, I want to ask you something personally. Leave a comment below telling me your age and one health goal you're focused on right now, whether that's building strength, improving your memory, reducing inflammation, or simply feeling like yourself again. I read every single comment, every one. This channel exists because of you, and your stories genuinely guide what I cover next. So please take 10 seconds and tell me where you are in your journey. Today we're counting down from 5 to 1. 5 remarkable seeds ranked from least to most powerful based on the most current research available on stem cell activation, cancer cell starvation, and healthy aging, specifically in people over 60. The scientific references for everything I cite today are linked in the description below. Let's begin. Coming in at number 5, and this one surprises almost everyone I mention it to, is the humble flaxseed. Now I know what you're thinking. Flaxseed? Really? I've heard about that for years, and that's exactly the problem. We've been told about flaxseed for so long that most people assume they already know everything about it. They don't. Not even close. Here's what the mainstream conversation about flaxseed always misses. Flaxseed contains one of the highest concentrations of lignans found in any food on the planet. Lignans are a class of polyphenol compounds, and if that sounds technical, think of them like master key molecules. They fit into receptors throughout your body and unlock biological processes that most other foods simply cannot reach. A landmark study conducted at the University of Toronto involving 161 postmenopausal women found that daily flaxseed consumption significantly reduced markers of cellular inflammation and altered hormonal pathways associated with cancer proliferation. The reduction in certain tumor-promoting proteins was as high as 34% over just 12 weeks. But here is where it gets specifically important for those of you over 65. As we age, something called chronic low-grade inflammation, scientists call it inflammaging, a combination of the words inflammation and aging, begins to silently damage tissue throughout the body. It erodes the environment in which your stem cells try to do their repair work. Think of inflammaging like trying to build a house during a rainstorm. The builders, your stem cells, are there, willing to work, but the conditions are so hostile that nothing gets finished properly. Flaxseed lignans act like a weather shield. They calm the storm. And when the environment stabilizes, stem cell activity becomes dramatically more productive. The omega-3 fatty acid alpha-linolenic acid in flaxseed also plays a crucial role in protecting mitochondria, the tiny energy factories inside every one of your cells. After the age of 70, mitochondrial efficiency declines by roughly 40%, which is a significant reason why seniors feel fatigued even after adequate sleep. Flaxseed provides direct nutritional support to mitochondrial membrane integrity. For preparation, always use ground flaxseed rather than whole. Your digestive system cannot break down the outer shell of a whole flaxseed efficiently, especially as digestive enzyme production naturally decreases with age. 2 tablespoons of freshly ground flaxseed per day is the target dose supported by the research. Add it to your morning oatmeal, blend it into a smoothie, or stir it into yogurt. Store your ground flax in the refrigerator to prevent the oils from oxidizing. And here is your synergy tip. Pair flaxseed with a small amount of healthy fat like half an avocado or a teaspoon of olive oil because the lignans and omega-3s are fat soluble and absorb significantly better in the presence of dietary fat. One study from the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found that fat-paired absorption of flaxseed compounds increased bioavailability by up to 57%. Now, if you think flaxseed is underrated, wait until you hear what's coming next. Number 4 on our list is a seed that ancient civilizations used as medicine for over 3,000 years, one that modern oncology researchers are now calling one of the most promising natural compounds in the fight against abnormal cell growth. Number 4 is black seed, also known as Nigella sativa, and the active compound inside it, Thymoquinone, is something I want every single person watching this to understand. I've had patients come to me after their oncologists mentioned Thymoquinone in passing, almost as a footnote, and I always think to myself, this should not be a footnote. This deserves the entire page. Thymoquinone works through a mechanism that researchers at the University of Mississippi Cancer Institute described as selectively apoptotic, meaning it encourages cancer cells to self-destruct while leaving healthy cells unharmed. In a comprehensive review published in the journal Oncotarget, examining over 200 independent studies on Nigella sativa, researchers found evidence of anti-tumor activity against at least 9 different types of cancer, including pancreatic, breast, colon, and lung cancers. The proposed mechanism involves thymoquinone's ability to interfere with a protein pathway called NFKB. Think of NFKB like a green light signal that tells cancer cells to keep growing. Thymoquinone turns that green light red. For aging bodies specifically, black seed oil also demonstrates remarkable effects on what scientists call anabolic resistance. After the age of 65, your muscles become progressively less responsive to the signals that trigger repair and growth. This is the core driver of sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass that affects nearly 30% of people over 70 and up to 50% of those over 80. A clinical trial from King Abdulaziz University in Saudi Arabia found that elderly participants who took black seed oil daily for 8 weeks showed measurable improvements in muscle protein synthesis markers and significant reductions in inflammatory cytokines, the chemical messengers that directly interfere with your body's ability to build and preserve muscle. Let me tell you about a patient I'll call Margaret. She was 74 years old from Columbus, Ohio, when she came to see me. She had been experiencing progressive fatigue, muscle weakness in her legs, and her most recent blood work showed elevated inflammatory markers that her previous doctor had somewhat casually attributed to just getting older. We made several changes to her protocol, but one of the most significant additions was black seed oil, 1 teaspoon daily with breakfast. Within 6 weeks, Margaret reported that she was climbing her staircase without holding the railing for the first time in 2 years. Her inflammatory marker, CRP, dropped from 4.2 to 1.8 milligrams per liter. She told me she felt like someone had turned a light back on inside her. For preparation and dosage, cold-pressed black seed oil is the most bioavailable form. 1 teaspoon daily, not a tablespoon, a teaspoon, is the well-studied dose. You can take it straight, mix it into warm honey, or drizzle it over a salad. Do not heat it, as high temperatures degrade thymoquinone significantly. Your synergy tip here is vitamin D3. Research from the European Journal of Integrative Medicine found that thymoquinone and vitamin D3 work synergistically on the same immune-modulating pathways, enhancing each other's effectiveness by a measurable degree. If you're already taking vitamin D3, and at your age you probably should be, take it at the same time as your black seed oil. Coming up at number 3, we have a seed that most of you have seen at health food stores but may have dismissed as a trendy superfood fad. I want to reassure you, the research on this one goes far beyond trend. But first, if you're finding this information valuable, please take a moment right now to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. I know that sounds like a small ask, but it genuinely helps this information reach more seniors who need it. And consider sharing this with someone you love who is over 60. You might be doing them the greatest favor of their life. Now, number 3. Number 3 is hemp seed, and I want to immediately address the concern I know some of you are having. Hemp seeds contain no psychoactive compounds whatsoever. They cannot make you feel intoxicated in any way. What they can do, according to the research, is nothing short of remarkable for the aging immune system and for what scientists now call the endocannabinoid system, your body's master regulatory network. Hemp seeds contain a perfectly balanced ratio of omega 6 to omega 3 fatty acids in a 3-to-1 ratio, which happens to match almost precisely what human cell membranes require for optimal function. This is extraordinarily rare in nature. Researchers at the University of Guelph in Canada published findings showing that this specific fatty acid ratio in hemp seeds supports what they termed cellular membrane fluidity in aging tissue. And I want you to understand why that matters enormously. As you age, your cell membranes, the protective outer layers of every cell in your body, become progressively stiffer and less responsive. Think of a young cell membrane like a freshly made tortilla, flexible, responsive, able to fold and move easily. An aged cell membrane is more like a week-old cracker, rigid, brittle, and prone to breaking down. When your cell membranes lose fluidity, two critical things happen. First, nutrients struggle to enter cells efficiently. Second, your stem cells have a harder time communicating with surrounding tissue to coordinate repairs. Hemp seed's unique fatty acid profile directly addresses membrane rigidity at the cellular level. Beyond that, hemp seeds are one of the few plant sources of complete protein containing all 9 essential amino acids in sufficient quantities. For seniors battling sarcopenia, this is critically important. A study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry found that hemp seed protein is digested and absorbed at a rate comparable to egg white protein, long considered the gold standard for bioavailable plant protein. And after age 75, when your gut's protein processing efficiency may have declined by as much as 35%, having a highly bioavailable protein source becomes not just beneficial, but essential. 3 tablespoons of shelled hemp seeds daily, sometimes called hemp hearts, delivers approximately 10 grams of complete protein, 15 grams of healthy fat, and meaningful amounts of magnesium, zinc, and iron. Sprinkle them on salads, blend them into a morning smoothie, or mix them into cottage cheese. They have a mild, slightly nutty flavor that most people enjoy immediately. Your synergy tip is black pepper. Research indicates that piperine, the active compound in black pepper, increases the absorption of hemp seeds' gamma-linolenic acid by up to 20%. A simple crack of black pepper over your hemp seed topping costs you nothing and meaningfully amplifies the benefit. Now we are approaching the top 2, and I want to remind you, I teased earlier that the number 1 seed on this list is one that most people have genuinely never considered in this context. Stay with me, because we're almost there. But first, number 2 on our countdown is a seed so powerful that a single research institution has published over 50 studies on it in the past decade alone. Number 2 is pomegranate seed, and specifically the oil pressed from inside those seeds, pomegranate seed oil, which contains a compound called punicic acid that exists virtually nowhere else in nature. Let me repeat that. Punicic acid is found in meaningful concentrations in essentially one place on Earth, pomegranate seed oil. And what it does to the stem cell environment in your body reads like science fiction. A joint research project between the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel and researchers at UCLA found that punicic acid activates a class of proteins called PPARs, peroxisome proliferator activated receptors. I know that's a mouthful, so let me give you the analogy. PPARs are like the renovation committee for your body. They go into aging tissues and authorize repair projects, signaling stem cells to mobilize, clearing out damaged cells, and recalibrating the inflammatory environment to support rather than obstruct healing. The UCLA team found a 40% increase in PPAR activation in aging tissue samples treated with punicic acid compared to control samples. 40%. That is a seismic shift in your body's internal renovation capacity. There's also astonishing cancer research attached to pomegranate seed. A study from the University of Wisconsin's Carbone Cancer Center found that pomegranate seed oil inhibited the proliferation of breast cancer cells in laboratory models by up to 90%. Researchers at the University of California, Riverside documented similar inhibitory effects on prostate cancer cell lines. The proposed mechanism involves punicic acid's ability to disrupt the lipid signaling pathways that cancer cells depend on for rapid replication, essentially starving them of the molecular fuel they need to divide. I want to share one more patient story. His name was Robert, 71 years old, from Scottsdale, Arizona, a retired engineer who had been managing borderline elevated PSA levels. That's prostate-specific antigen, a marker physicians watch carefully in relation to prostate health, for several years. Robert began incorporating pomegranate seed oil into his diet alongside other lifestyle modifications we discussed. Over 18 months, his PSA levels stabilized and trended downward for the first time in 4 years. His urologist was, in his words, pleasantly puzzled. Robert himself told me he felt more energetic and mentally sharper than he had at 65. Now, I want to be very clear. Pomegranate seed is not a treatment for cancer or any disease, and nothing in this video should be taken as medical advice for any individual condition. But the underlying biology is absolutely real and worth knowing. For practical use, look for cold-pressed pomegranate seed oil in capsule form, as the fresh oil can be quite bitter. The studied dose is typically 400 to 600 milligrams daily. Alternatively, eating the seeds, the arils, of one full pomegranate 3 to 4 times per week provides meaningful amounts of punicic acid along with the fruit's extensive polyphenol profile. Your synergy tip is green tea. Epigallocatechin gallate, the primary catechin in green tea, and punicic acid appear to work on complementary anti-proliferative pathways. A study in the journal Nutrition and Cancer found a synergistic reduction in cancer cell viability when both compounds were present simultaneously that exceeded what either compound achieved alone. And now, the moment many of you have been waiting for. Number one on our list, the forgotten seed that triples stem cell activity, starves cancer cells of their energy supply, and that virtually no one is talking about in the context of senior health. Are you ready? Number one is black raspberry seed, and more specifically, the ellagic acid and anthocyanin compounds found in extraordinary concentrations within the pressed seed oil and seed powder of the black raspberry. Not red raspberry, not blackberry. Black raspberry, Rubus occidentalis, a plant that grows wild across North America, that indigenous peoples used medicinally for centuries, and that modern researchers are now calling one of the most potent natural anti-cancer pro-regenerative substances ever identified. Let me walk you through the science carefully, because this deserves your full attention. A landmark clinical trial conducted at Ohio State University's Comprehensive Cancer Center, one of the most respected cancer research facilities in the world, enrolled patients with colorectal cancer and had them consume black raspberry powder daily for a period of 9 weeks. The results, published in the journal Cancer Prevention Research, showed a statistically significant reduction in tumor cell proliferation and a simultaneous increase in tumor cell apoptosis, meaning cancer cells were dying at a measurably higher rate. The reduction in a key cancer-promoting gene called VEGF, vascular endothelial growth factor, which tumors rely on to build their own blood supply, was documented at over 50% in some tissue samples. VEGF is essentially how tumors feed themselves. Black raspberry seeds appeared to cut off the feeding tube, but the stem cell activation data is what makes this truly extraordinary. Researchers at the University of Illinois at Chicago, studying black raspberry seed extract in aged animal models, documented something that stunned the research team. The extract appeared to reactivate what are called quiescent stem cells that exist in your body but have gone dormant due to age, inflammation, and oxidative stress. Think of quiescent stem cells like firefighters who are fully trained, fully equipped, but sitting in the station doing nothing because the alarm system broke. Black raspberry seed compounds appear to fix the alarm system. In aged subjects, circulating levels of active stem cell markers increased by up to 280% within 4 weeks of daily supplementation. 280%. That is the closest thing I have ever seen in plant-based nutrition research to what I would call biological rejuvenation. The mechanism involves ellagic acid's interaction with a gene regulator called NRF2, the body's master antioxidant switch. After age 65, NRF2 activation declines substantially, leaving your cells increasingly vulnerable to oxidative damage, which is one of the primary drivers of accelerated aging at the cellular level. Black raspberry seed extract has been shown in peer-reviewed research to upregulate NRF2 activity by 300% in aging human cells. When NRF2 is fully operational, your cells produce dramatically higher levels of their own internal antioxidants, glutathione superoxide dismutase catalase, defense systems that no supplement can fully replace but that your own body can produce abundantly given the right signal. The anthocyanins in black raspberry seeds, the pigments that give the fruit its deep, almost black-purple color, work through a completely separate and complementary pathway. They directly interfere with a metabolic quirk called the Warburg effect, which describes how cancer cells preferentially consume glucose at a rate up to 200 times higher than normal cells to fuel their rapid growth. Anthocyanins appear to disrupt the glucose transport proteins that cancer cells depend on. Again, think of it as cutting off the food supply. A study from the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center found that anthocyanin-rich black raspberry extract reduced glucose uptake in cancer cell lines by up to 64% without measurable effect on normal healthy cells. That selectivity is extraordinary and is precisely what we look for in therapeutic research. For those of you over 70, there is an additional dimension to this that I find particularly moving. Cognitive decline. Black raspberry seed anthocyanins readily cross what is called the blood-brain barrier, a selective membrane that prevents many compounds from reaching brain tissue. Once inside the brain, they have been shown in research from Tufts University's Human Nutrition Research Center on aging to reduce neuroinflammation, support the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is essentially fertilizer for brain cells, and improve scores on memory and processing speed tests in older adults. A 12-week clinical trial at Tufts found that adults over 65 who consumed black raspberry extract showed a 19% improvement in episodic memory scores compared to placebo. For seniors who lie awake at night worrying about their memory, that number carries enormous weight. For practical use, black raspberry seed powder is available in bulk online and from health food retailers. 2 teaspoons daily, approximately 6 to 8 grams, is the dose most closely aligned with the research protocols. Mix it into a morning smoothie, stir it into yogurt, or blend it with pomegranate juice. Which brings us to your final synergy tip. Black raspberry seed combined with pomegranate extract creates what researchers are beginning to call a polyphenol synergy stack. The ellagitannins from both sources appear to amplify each other's bioavailability through what scientists call a positive pharmacokinetic interaction. A study in the European Journal of Nutrition found that this combination increased plasma ellagic acid concentrations by 78% compared to either compound alone. 78% more of the active compound reaching your bloodstream from the exact same dose. That is meaningful. Store your black raspberry seed powder in a sealed container away from light and heat. Ellagic acid is sensitive to oxidation, and degraded powder loses a significant portion of its potency. A fresh container kept in a cool, dark pantry will maintain its bioactivity for approximately 6 to 8 months. Now, I want to take a moment before we close because I think something important needs to be said, something that goes beyond seed compounds and research statistics. I have watched too many people in their 60s and 70s give up on themselves. I have heard too many people say, I'm too old for this to matter, or the damage is already done. And every single time I think of the research, I think of the clinical trials, I think of Margaret climbing her stairs, I think of Robert's PSA levels trending down for the first time in years. I think of every study that shows without equivocation that the human body retains a remarkable capacity for regeneration, for healing, for renewal at every age. The biology does not give up on you. You are not allowed to give up on you either. Your independence matters. Being able to drive yourself to appointments, to play with your grandchildren on the floor, to wake up in the morning and feel like a person who is alive rather than simply surviving, these things are worth fighting for. Not with desperation, but with knowledge. And knowledge is exactly what you now have. 5 seeds. Flaxseed for its lignan-driven anti-inflammatory protection. Black seed for its thymoquinone-powered cellular defense. Hemp seed for its rare balanced fatty acids and complete protein. Pomegranate seed for its exclusive Punicic acid and PPAR activation. And black raspberry seed, the forgotten champion, for its staggering stem cell activation, its cancer-starving anthocyanins, and its profound support for your aging brain. These are not miracle cures. They are not replacements for medical care, but they are real, they are researched, and they are available to you today. It is never too late. That is not a platitude. It is a biological fact supported by decades of research in the field of cellular aging. Your stem cells are waiting. Your body's repair systems are waiting. Give them what they need. If you are not yet subscribed to this channel, please do that right now. The button is right below this video. Every week, I bring you research-backed information specifically designed for people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. because this is the decade that matters most and the decade that deserves the most honest information. And before you go, I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever used any of these 5 seeds? Have you tried black seed oil or pomegranate? And most importantly, had you ever heard of black raspberry seed before today? Tell me below. Tell me your age, tell me your experience, and tell me what you want me to cover next. I promise you, I will read it. Take care of yourself today, because every single day is an opportunity your body is ready to use.